Headphone warning, if you're listening to this video using earbuds or anything of the sort, you might want to turn the volume down just a wee bit, as I may blow out your eardrums with some of my excitement from having witnessed episode 4. The Kraken has destroyed a dragon, and with that is growing to the top of my shit list. In this video, I want to discuss several things you may or may not have missed from Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 4, as well as some upcoming events that may have been foreshadowed. This video will contain spoilers, so as always, here's your sign and let's begin. Before we get started, please slap a like on this video, as the like goal is going to be 4,420. Also, we have a subscriber goal of trying to reach 100,000, so please make sure you're subscribed and then turn your notifications on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a video. Long night. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, the first thing I want to talk about is how Euron is now at the top of my poo-poo list, and I hope Daenerys and Drogon really go full throttle on that ass. I mean, usually in these videos, I try to stay pretty impartial, and I like to put myself in that character's shoes and look at it from their angle and then provide you guys with what they may be thinking is motivating them in those moments. This time, I'm not gonna do that. Euron, you are a dickhead, bro. Like, I don't know what it was, but I'm pretty sure he was flirting with Daenerys back in Game of Thrones Season 7 in the Dragon Pit. And then, he sleeps with Cersei one time and he's just completely turned tail on that motivation. I feel like if this were a little bit more true to Euron's book counterpart, he might have tried to play his hand even wider. Manipulation is his game in the novels, and it sort of seems like his show counterpart is just gonna play the love-smitten fool. I'm positive that the first chance Cersei gets, especially with Jaime coming back into play, she's gonna throw Euron out to sea. But one thing you may have noticed in the moments where the dragon dies is that it's sort of poetic that Rhaegal bites the dust over the ocean. This is symbolic of Euron being of House Greyjoy and being a Kraken. It's almost as if he grabbed the dragon from the sky with his tentacles and pulled him down to the depths of the ocean. It may suck that Euron killed the dragon before, but we can't really say we've seen this coming when I guess you could call it foreshadowing. Viserion died the same way, but falling into a lake. I think that's a way to sort of deal with the corpse of the dragon and not have to worry about CGI rendering it in later into the episode because it's now at the bottom of the ocean. The next thing that I want to discuss in this video is something that really sort of hit home with me, and I hope the way that this episode was sort of played out, it doesn't turn out that way. I know they're going to write it well, and I know it'll still be just as gripping as every other episode, but I really hope that Daenerys isn't becoming the Mad Queen. Now, initially I said this in my live stream, speaking of which you can check out the link right up here or the link down below in the description and go and check that out for yourself. But I initially thought that Varys was acting out of place. He was just threatened by Daenerys. She told him in season 7 that the very first time that he messed up, she would burn him. Now that I've had some time to think about it, I've realized that the only reason why Varys is acting so courageous and ballsy, if you will, is because there's no longer a threat of the Red Priestess around him. He knows that Melisandre, I'm sure, walked off into the sunset and dissipated, and we haven't heard anything from Kinvara just yet. There's still a possibility that she could pop up with maybe Daario in these next 2 episodes, but Varys is a spider, and he's even more dangerous because he's pretending that everything he's doing is for the betterment of the realm. And I guess if you look at it from his point of view, it sort of is, but he really does sway in the wind. This is what Tyrion was sort of calling him out on. By asking him how many rulers he served on, he's sort of saying, like, maybe you should just wait before you jump ship. Daenerys is a good person. We trusted in her for a reason. Let's allow her to make the proper decision. But I guess what I'm sort of getting at here is no matter which way the plot seems to be going, we have to remember this show is famous for twisting that around and turning it on a hair. With these longer episodes, the storyline could start out one way and then completely turn another. And speaking of longer episodes, I just want to ask you all watching this video for a second. Do y'all feel that maybe these episodes are a little bit too long? Not in a bad way, but in a good way, in the sense that we're on the edge of our seat for so freaking long, we just want it to end. It's so agonizing to be that immersed in suspense for such a long period of time. Usually the first thing I do after the episode is go back and rewatch any of the nude scenes there might have been, but this time I actually had to step outside and grab a quick smoke. Just sort of getting back on track here, I feel like Daenerys, in the moments where everyone's sort of relving in, or that's not really a word, but everyone's sort of just basking in how awesome Jon is, and Tormund, the wine monger, is spreading all of these awesome war stories, it starts to go in slow motion and Daenerys sort of feels left out. And instead of trying to include herself further into one of these scenes and enjoying herself with the rest of the people, she realizes that she's lost so much, she doesn't really feel as though she belongs. Sometimes you go through so much and you're in such a depression, you feel as though you want to remove yourself from everyone else because you can't really relate to them. You don't want to impede on your happiness, so you feel as though the best thing to do in that situation is just walk away. But in this scene with Daenerys, where everything just sort of becomes heavy, in my opinion, I recognized it as one thing: a panic attack. the moment where she realizes that everything just sort of hits her all at once. She's lost a dragon, she's lost her entire army, she's been raised her entire life expecting that she would be sold off to someone in order for her brother to acquire an army and they would go back and take the Iron Throne. She's had this in her mind her entire life, and if you remember in Game of Thrones Season 1, she mentions how she doesn't want any of this. Right before Viserys sends her off to go and get raped by Khal Drogo, she tells him that she doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want this. This is something that's been forced upon her. So now, fast forward 7 whole seasons, she's acquired so much, all while having that someone else's ideal and goals in the back of her mind. She gets so close to conquering it, and then it's all knocked back down. Every single time she has a success, she's knocked back down 2 steps. Now, I don't care who you are and how strong of a person you think you may be, but if you went through the same she did, then your reaction would be pretty similar to hers. It would be jealousy, confusion, and you don't really know what to do aside from just walking away. Now, the last thing I want to mention about this whole Daenerys, Varys, Tyrion, the Seven Kingdoms, Jon Snow mess before I move on to other stuff that happened in this episode is that Daenerys is a complex being. We all seem to think she's going to go Mad Queen at least once every season, and then she turns tail and we all realize that, hey, she has some common sense. The people that she's chosen to surround herself with usually win if Daenerys tries to act on her impulses, but we have to remember one thing, or 2 things rather. She watched her dragon die in front of her for the 2nd time, and then also Cersei, who just had someone kill her dragon, had her right hand beheaded and then pushed off a building. Whatever Daenerys' next course of action will take, then so be it. Fire and blood, motherfuckers. Everyone is quick to jump on a character bandwagon hating train, but we have to realize that plot lines will switch up at the turn of a corner, and we already have a Mad Queen on this show. That's Cersei. She's the one who killed hundreds because of one that she placed in power. And you know what? I'm gonna take this one step further. Debate me down in the comments section, but this whole sort of thing has all been Cersei's fault. If she never suggested to Jaime to push the little kid out of the window, and she could have kept Jaime's willy out of her vajayjay until they got back to King's Landing, Cersei, I got one word for you. Well, 2. Fire and blood. Now, the next thing that I want to discuss is Jaime and his progression, or regression. I guess something that was easily missed is that Jaime does this all the time. Every time we start to make some sort of leeway with his character and we get a breakthrough with him doing the right thing, of his mind winning over what he feels is better, he gets caught up in Cersei's slippery lies in a web of mess and just keeps getting pulled back in. And the part that was easily missed is the conversation that he has with Brienne. He does not mean those words that he says to her right before he walks away. This is a callback from Game of Thrones Season 6 when Jaime is laying siege to River Run. And if we want to take this a step further in the books, while Jaime's in the Riverlands, the timeline's really construed here, but basically Jaime gets a letter, he reads the letter, it's Cersei asking for help, and then he tosses the letter in the fire. In those moments he realizes that him and Cersei were brought into this world together, and perhaps they deserve to die together. And in these moments in Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 4, this is what he's telling Brienne that he realizes. He doesn't mean deep down that he's a terrible person, you know, everyone does wrong, but everyone should be given a chance to redeem themselves, or at least this is what Brienne is trying to explain to Jaime, but in Jaime's mind, he deserves death for what he has done, and that's likely what he's going to go do. Now, I don't think Jaime's going to go stand by Cersei's side and then completely regress back to all the progress that he made and try, even though he knows she's evil, go fight by her side. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, and his actual plan is to go and kill Cersei. He knows that he's one of the only people that can get close enough to do so, and he's hoping that he will die in the process in order for him to not have to live with the guilt. I'm thinking he may meet up with Arya along the way, and she should be able to help him with his journey. Not so much on the TV show, but in the books, the Valonqar prophecy is something that is very real, and it states that Cersei will be killed by her younger brother. We know that Cersei is minutes older than Jaime, so maybe this series ends, or Cersei's death anyway, is at the hands of Jaime and him strangling her, which is pretty much what the Valonqar prophecy states. And you know what, just going on a crazy side tangent here, it's also possible for Euron to fulfill the Valonqar prophecy. He is a younger brother of Balon Greyjoy, and after he finds out that Cersei's not really his baby mama, then I'm pretty sure he's gonna go and attempt to wipe her off the map. Cersei has caused more pain and turmoil than any other villain in Game of Thrones, and has affected pretty much every single character that's still alive. The fact that she just killed 2 of Daenerys' closest advisors, I'm pretty sure whichever way she goes out is gonna involve not only Daenerys forcing her into a corner, but also dying in some horribly horrific way, likely by someone close to her like Jaime, just so she's in that much more pain as she spends her last few moments in Westeros. Now, the next thing that I want to discuss is something that was a bit of a gripe that I had with the episode. Jon, will you just pet the damn dog? Like, literally, walk over to him and say goodbye. I think what these moments, and this is probably just me reading too much into it, and this could be something that everyone missed, is the fact that Jon doesn't go say goodbye to his direwolf is sort of the way that he turns his back on House Stark. He doesn't actually say goodbye, but I feel like the fact that he's leaving for King's Landing, he won't be returning until he is either dead or the actual king. Sam has said it the most before. When Jon Snow leaves, he always comes back, and the way that he never actually says goodbye to Ghost is the same way that he's felt while living in Winterfell under House Stark. He's never sort of felt like one of them. And somehow, Jon knew deep down that his destiny lies elsewhere, not in the cold, frostbitten halls of Winterfell. You know, on a bit of a side note here, it's kind of ironic that everyone keeps saying that because Jon doesn't want the Iron Throne, that will make him a better king, and then Daenerys mentions when she's having that heart-to-heart with Jon that the way that the people look at him is not the same way that people look at her across the sea. Sort of makes you think that maybe Daenerys will give the crown to Jon Snow. Instead of him giving it to her, maybe she will willingly leave. Well, never mind, that would be dumb. But maybe her multiple kamikaze moments throughout the entirety of this show has been foreshadowing to how she ultimately goes out. I think in the moments where Daenerys sort of does that dive towards Euron, she's willing to accept death if it means death for Euron as well. And just sort of touching at what I was getting at in the live stream, they're sort of writing Daenerys into a corner, and the only way out is death. The only way I could see her not sitting the Iron Throne is death. Or at least that's the way, or what we're being led to believe. Maybe in the next episode, in the few clips that we get to see of Tyrion in the trailer, he'll finally be able to convince Daenerys. Marriage. Just marry Jon Snow. Both of you can sit the Iron Throne. He doesn't really want it, so he could be like the political figurehead in charge that the crowds just sort of woon over, and you're the brains behind the whole operation, making sure the Seven Kingdoms prosper. That is all, after all, what Daenerys has wanted. Now, another moment that I thoroughly enjoyed was like sort of like a silent air horn moment was when Arya was joined Sandor on his quest to King's Landing. We pretty much got Cleganebowl confirmed, and I'm positive that between the two of them, they will either be able to take out at least one of their targets, whether that's the Mountain or Cersei. Now, we have to realize that Sandor's got a bit of a competition for who wants to kill the Mountain, because as of right now, Grey Worm just saw his one and only true love being beheaded. And you know, now that I'm thinking about it and starting to realize, literally everyone who we care about is headed to King's Landing. And with this being the second to last episode of not only this season, but of the series, you best believe there will be an insane amount of death. I'm gonna go ahead and call it right now. I predict that Cersei will be dead by the end of episode 5. You all let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Hey, you know what? Just because I can do this and this is my channel, I'm also gonna make another prediction that if Cersei survives by the end of episode 5, then that will mean that Daenerys will have died. The Mad Queen versus the Dragon Queen. Both of them arguably have nothing to lose. Now, throwing up just a super quick spoiler warning before I discuss this next part. Skip ahead a few seconds if you don't want to hear about it. But we were given images, and I mentioned them in almost every video that I've made this season, that included Jon Snow meeting with Cersei at some point. Now this pretty much confirms to happen in episode 5, and I feel like the whole plot that's going on has been confirmed. It's something that I've suggested at it before. Cersei will find about Jon Snow's true lineage. She will then confer with Qyburn, and he will likely suggest to her that making an alliance with Jon Snow, who is proven to be the true heir of the Seven Kingdoms, would likely be a better fit than Euron, who's a pirate and way less trustworthy than Jon Snow. And what's likely going to happen is Jon will meet with Cersei, and Cersei will agree to it after finding out about Jon Snow's true lineage. Jon will likely be hoping to stop any potential bloodshed that is about to happen. And we actually get a glimpse of this in that episode 5 promo teaser. Now, whatever is said between these two characters, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a monologue that will go down in the history books. Jon Snow and Cersei have never really shared a scene together as far as them being the only two in it, and I'm pretty sure whatever Cersei tells Jon is going to be full of lies and manipulation, and what Jon said in this last episode, Daenerys is his queen. He's not going to be hearing none of that. This would likely cause Cersei to react poorly. And there was a long running theory that when Jon Snow meets with Cersei, she has him kidnapped. So maybe she seizes Jon in these moments, and the fact that Tyrion was the one that convinced Jon to go and meet with Cersei, maybe this is looked upon as a betrayal. Tyrion would then be blamed for mistrusting Cersei yet again, and this would likely be the cause of his trial. Although I could just be overthinking it. You know, Cersei could be the one who calls this meeting. Maybe it's because she realizes that she's going to need someone to still control the North, and if she does make some sort of alliance with Jon Snow, he's way more trustworthy than Daenerys. I feel like Cersei Cersei kidnapping someone and taking them hostage yet again would be a bit of a wait, that's this show. Running themes. History repeats itself. Maybe she is going to get one more captive before the show's out. And the last couple things I want to talk about in this video are just some of the moments that I enjoyed or you know, that were just extremely hard for me to watch. Missandei's death. Now, like I mentioned in my live stream, sometimes the side characters' deaths are the ones that really get you off guard. I spent my 2 years that Game of Thrones Season 8 was being filmed preparing myself for the death of main characters. Now, I know if Daenerys or Jon Snow or Sansa or Arya or Tyrion or any of them really bite the dust, I would have prepared myself for that. The fact that I was not expecting in any sort of way for Missandei to die made her death affect me so much more. I appreciate the fact that the showrunners decided to sort of blur her death out. It would have just been too emotional to have watched after we just saw Rhaegal die. Then we got to see Missandei, who's been with the show since season 2. You are a long-running character, and I really enjoy Natalie Emmanuel's work on Game of Thrones. But I will say next time, if that opportunity ever arises, grab Cersei and take her down with you. Another thing I thoroughly enjoyed about this episode was the dialogue. I know some people didn't enjoy that as much, but the scenes with Varys and Tyrion especially were very reminiscent from the earlier scenes. The fact that they were plotting in front of the Dragonstone throne is something that's easily missed, that they used to do this a lot back in Game of Thrones Season 2. Character expansion is great, and the fact that they have two characters share such a long scene is the show's way of conveying what those characters' innermost thoughts are. In the books, we have the luxury of just straight up turning the page and then reading exactly what's going on in that character's head, and it's always creative to see the way that the show is going to convey that dialogue. I appreciate those kinds of scenes very much, and I love the callbacks to the earlier seasons. It reminds you that this show is, after all, the Game of Thrones. And games are not always played with swords, but sometimes with words. The last thing that I want to mention in this video is, real quickly, Gendry finally getting the title he deserves. He is now Lord of Storms, and in the very first thing he does after sleeping with Arya and finding out this information is proposing to her. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I really do hope that after Arya takes care of Cersei, or once her final mission is completed, she does go and join him and make their father's dream come to fruition. Also, shout out to Lynn Shaw for calling this way back like 6 months ago. And on a side note, do y'all think it's possible that maybe Jon Snow and Daenerys are just so done with the games for the Iron Throne by the end of this, when it's all said and done in 2 more episodes, that they just decide to hand the crown to the next person that would technically be in line, I guess, aside from them, Gendry? With that super tinfoil idea being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Alright, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could, please slap a like on this video. The like goal is going to be 4,420. And you know what? You guys keep smashing those like goals. Let's make the like goal something crazy like 20,000 likes. Also, we have a subscriber goal of trying to reach 100,000 strong by the end of Game of Thrones Season 8. Please make sure you're subscribed and then turn your notifications on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a video. Long night. Super special shout out to every single person watching, and a super special thank you to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Reviews.